What is good, Raider Nation? I hope you guys are all having a great day out there. Please confirm that you guys could 100% hear me. I want to just get into some thoughts, some opinions. I have not been making a ton of content the past couple of days. I've been super busy, um, and I wasn't home, and I wasn't in my home environment here. And I kind of missed some of the Raiders news and stuff that has been coming out the past couple of days. And I really want to talk about it, man. So I appreciate the comments that have already come in. Really, really, really appreciate it. Knock Andrew, thank you for the comment. I hope you guys are all doing well. I see a ton of your guys' comments already coming in. I'm pumped up about this Southern Oregon reps. We're gonna talk about that question. It's a great question. It's there, man. We're gonna talk about it. Again, I really appreciate it, man. I appreciate all you guys. Docs, shout out to you, man. Let's get into this, man. First and foremost, I have not been posting content. I made like a film study, but that was honestly made on like Wednesday of last week, and I posted it I think on Saturday. I made a couple of videos last week as well. Posted it Thursday, Friday, and I made a video I think Saturday morning, but that was not, the production kind of sucked with that one. But man, I want to get into this now. I really want to talk about probably the biggest news in on the Raiders right now, which is Nicholas Morrow starting over Nick Kwiatkowski. It's crazy because Kwiatkowski, in my opinion, had a great year last year, and Nick Morrow did as well. Um, and this is such a crazy thing to talk about because, as you guys know, Kwiatkowski is locked in for this year. Same with Nicholas Morrow, right? They're both locked in. They're both going to be on the roster, and we can't cut either of them because we would lose, I think, $4.5 million if we cut Morrow. At the same time, if we cut Kwiatkowski, we would lose money there as well. So we're locked in with both of those guys as well as Corey Littleton. And what's crazy is that Nicholas Morrow is taking first string reps, and I want to discuss what that means. Same with Tanner Muse, right? Yeah, he's technically taking first string reps, but it's a little bit different with Tanner Muse, and we'll discuss that. We got the first super chat of the day, came from Aunt6 Soldier. Have you seen the depth chart? If so, what are your thoughts? I have not. If it was just released, let me just look it up really quickly. And let's just talk about it, man. There's as you guys know, um there's a ton of good, interesting things, man. So let me just quickly look at the depth chart. We'll talk about the linebackers a little bit. I see that ESPN has like their depth chart. I don't know how up to date that is. But we can, I guess we could just base it off of that. It looks like they have Nicholas Morrow, Max Richardson, and Corey Littleton starting. I don't know if that's the updated roster. If someone can confirm that, or if someone can put it in the chat, we'll discuss it and we'll get into it. But yeah, man, we're gonna discuss that for sure. We'll get into that. We'll obviously get into the Nick Kwiatkowski. All right, so there it is. I got the depth chart up. So right now it does look like the middle linebacker is going to be Nicholas Morrow. The strong side linebacker, it says Tanner Muse. That's crazy to think Tanner Muse is the strong side linebacker. Let's discuss this, man. Let me see if I can share this with you guys, or if there's a way I can share it so you guys can kind of see the roster or the depth chart, I should say. I believe you guys should be able to see it. There's the image right there. Let me see how that looks. So you guys can see the image right there. I don't know how clear or how blurry that is, but that's crazy, man. Tanner Muse is starting for the Las Vegas Raiders, according to this. Now, just to talk about it, he's not technically the starter because what it is Tanner Muse is going to come in for base defense, 4-3 defense. The Raiders aren't going to play a ton of 4-3. At the same time, you guys see right now that Casey Hayward starting, which was expected. You guys know that Trayvon Mullen starting was expected. None of this really surprises me, minus Tanner Muse being the strong side linebacker. But here's one of the things. Right now, and I apologize if it is blurry. I see the comments. It looks kind of blurry. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger and see if that kind of comes in. I hope that's a little bit more clear. It doesn't really surprise me. None of this really surprises me. Like we can look at the receivers on the offense side of the ball. We can look at the linemen. All of that makes sense, right? Like the slot guy, the running backs make sense. I will say the one interesting thing is BJ Emmons as the Raiders. Right now, it's saying that he's titled Jalen Richard as the third running back. Which, if you guys think about that, that means that he's going to be the guy if Jalen Richard can't be healthy. It's not 100% set in stone. Obviously, another thing to keep in note is, I said this in the past. Garrett Greshek, in my opinion, is a fullback, or at least he should be. And it looks like that's where the Raiders have him listed. So he's the backup fullback at the moment. Um, that's very, very interesting, man. What do you guys think about that, man? Let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think about the fact that BJ Emmons right now is the third running back? Keep in mind, he's a rookie from Alabama. He's not technically from Alabama, but he was at Alabama his rookie year, and then he transferred to FAU. But he is like an Alabama guy, technically. Um, Garrett Greshek's the backup fullback right now. How do you guys feel about that? Like, what are you guys' thoughts on that? That's interesting, man. It's crazy because I appreciate it, by the way, Aunt Six, for mentioning the fact that the depth chart's out there because I had not looked at it and I wouldn't have looked at it. So I really, really appreciate that. Um, I'm excited, man. And yeah, of course, I see some of you guys' comments. If you guys look at the cornerbacks, Nevin Lawson starting, and we knew Nevin Lawson was going to start. What's interesting is that Nate Hobbs is second and Amik Robertson is third, but that's kind of what we expected at the same time too, which is very interesting, man. Very, very, very interesting. Let's just get further into this depth chart. Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakwe are starting, and Cleveland Farrell is the backup defensive end, which we all knew, right? That's what it was going to be. Interestingly, Carl Nassib is the other guy, and then Malcolm Kuntz is the backup to Carl Nassib, which we kind of knew that as well. I think the one thing on this depth chart that will change with time is I believe Gerald McCoy will be much higher on the depth chart. Right now, you guys can see he's fourth just for nose tackles. Jonathan Hankins and Quentin, and interestingly for Quentin Jefferson, it says Quentin Jefferson or Solomon Thomas or Darius Phylon. That's very interesting that it says the word or, because that means it's an open ass battle between those three guys. Very, very, very interesting right there. What do you guys think, man? What do you guys think? I see a lot of you guys' comments. Some of you guys are saying like Nevin Lawson needs to go, which is interesting because I don't agree with that, right? I think Nevin Lawson right now is our best slot corner. At the same time, I think just over time, Nate Hobbs is going to take over, right? And that's just where we're at. We can't have superstars everywhere on the defense. It's going to take a couple of seasons. But I do think that Nate Hobbs is going to take over. Like it's just a matter of time. Safeties, I'm not surprised with Trayvon Merrick and Jonathan Abrams starting. What does surprise me is the fact that Tyree Gillespie is the third string strong safety. And that's not what we were told. We were told he's going to be the backup free safety. And right now, Dalen Levet is starting over him. That's insane to kind of think that. That's crazy, man. That's really, really crazy to think that Tyree Gillespie is so low. And I think part of it is because he is hurt, right? So we do have to keep that in mind. Roderick Teamer is the third string free safety. I don't think he's going to make the roster, to be honest. There's no way we're going to keep six safeties. I think five max. Nevin Lawson's the starter. Nate Hobbs is the second guy at the slot corner position. Amik Robertson is number 3, and Sean Crawford is number 4. So that means Crawford will likely be cut if he indeed is a slot. I don't think Amik Robertson's going to get cut yet. I think they're going to have to keep him around, especially weeks 1 and 2 while Nevin Lawson is suspended. Surprisingly, Keyshawn Nixon is the backup left cornerback. Some of you guys are mentioning that Rasul Douglas is so far behind. That's interesting. That's very, very, very interesting. Yeah, that's that one right there is I'm not 100% sure how I kind of feel about that one. Rasul Douglas being the third string corner. And it's not even third string, it's third string just for the left side, which means that means that he's probably like the fifth, sixth, or seventh corner. Bleedy Ray Wilson, same thing, the third on the roster on the depth chart for the right corner spot. Nicholas Morrow, Corey Littleton, Tanner Muse. I'm surprised with Tanner Muse. Like, the news has been that he's been the guy for the Raiders. He's been the guy that has been taking first string reps. But the hope still was that Nick Kwiatkowski would still come in on base defense. But that might not be the case now. But I will still say this. The training camp just started, right? Preseason just started. We still have 3 to 4 weeks left. We have a ton of camp. We have a ton of battles. If Nick Kwiatkowski proves himself, which I think he will, he can easily take over Tanner Muse's position. At the same time, like, do you guys really think that if like Nicholas Morrow got hurt, that Tanner Muse would be the next guy up? I don't know. One thing to note is Tanner Muse is a strong side linebacker and Corey Littleton is the weak side linebacker. So what that means is Tanner Muse will be lining up over tight ends. He'll be lining up over Travis Kelce. If during practice, it might be Darren Waller. And then Corey Littleton will go on the weak side. So he'll go on the opposite side. And Nicholas Morrow is the middle linebacker, which I don't know, man. He played inside linebacker for us last year. But to say like he's going to be the guy on nickel defense when it's like 3rd and 2, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. But obviously he's gotten better. And he's fighting to this could be his last year if he doesn't have a good year, right? Like, no team wanted to sign him, and he ended up coming back to the Raiders. And I shouldn't say no team because that's not 100% confirmed. But there was a chance that he wasn't going to get another contract. And Nick Morrow eventually came back to the Raiders for $4.5 million. And the Raiders did fully guarantee him that $4.5 million, which obviously is a little bit better for these players. Max Richardson right now is the 3rd linebacker, middle linebacker. Darren Lee is the 3rd weak side linebacker. And then Divine Diablo obviously has not practiced. So right now he's lined up as the 4th weak side linebacker. Of course, that will change, right? Surprisingly, Kendall Vickers is the 4th defensive tackle right now, which means right now he's probably on the outs. Like, if Quentin Jefferson, Solomon Thomas, and Darius Philon are the 3 defensive tackles that can potentially pay that 3 tech, that means that Kendall Vickers is 4. And we're not going to have him be the 4. We don't need 4 3 techs, right? We're going to have at max 5 defensive tackles. Jonathan Hankins, Quentin Jefferson, Solomon Thomas, Darius Philon. And then chances are Gerald McCoy will be the 5th guy for the Raiders, which means Kendall Vickers is now on the outs, as well as Darius Stales. Keep in mind, both guys are practice squad eligible, so I can still see either of those guys hitting the practice squad. Again, it's gonna be a battle, man. Another interesting note is DJ Turner is considered the 3rd slot wide receiver for the Raiders right now. I don't see Dylan Stoner. Where let me just confirm. Dylan Stoner right now is considered the 4th receiver behind Henry Ruggs, John Brown, and Keelan Doss. I don't know how I feel about that because I kind of felt that Dylan Stoner, being a slot receiver in college, he would come in and be the slot for the Raiders. Another interesting thing when you're looking at the offensive linemen, so obviously we knew who the starting 5 were going to be. We weren't sure with not necessarily the 3rd guard because we knew it would be John Simpson, but the 4th guard was the battle. And right now it looks like Patrick Amama is the backup right guard with Parker Inger as the backup right guard and Jeremiah Patosier as the backup to them, and Lester Cotton's lined up as the 3rd string left guard. I did say that I felt that Lester Cotton was going to be the 4th guard, the 4th guy that makes the roster spot, and it's still up there. It's still going to be a battle. Obviously, Richie, Denzel, and John Simpson are the 3 of the 4 guards, and the 4th guard is going to be a battle. I don't think Parker Inger is going to be the guy. He doesn't look ready. In my opinion, he does not look ready. But as you guys can see when you guys look at the roster spot, he's basically tied with Lester Cotton. Although I will say I think he gets cut before Lester Cotton. Cotton looks good, man. I've seen some of his reps. He looks good. One thing we knew was Brandon Parker was going to be the backup left tackle this season, and Jared Jones was going to be the backup right tackle. Actually, it was flipped just last week. I think Brandon Parker was the backup right and Jared was the backup left. But it's nice to get the official depth chart out there. I'm glad we're able to see, who's playing where. Another interesting note, there's a kid that the Raiders drafted this year. I'm sorry, they brought him in as an undrafted guy. BYU tight end Matt Bushman. Right now, he's lined up as number 4 with he's lined up as number, or I should say he's tied for number 3 with Derek Carrier. That means this year he is likely to make the roster over Alex Ellis and Nick Bowers. Now, Alex Ellis we kept, I think Nick Bowers as well. We kept those guys. I think both of those guys came from last year. Maybe it was Nick Bowers. We had him last year and we brought him back this year. But Matt Bushman, man, I think people might be sleeping on Matt Bushman. I think Matt Bushman might end up having a good NFL career. I'll be honest with you guys. The Raiders keep 4 tight ends on the roster every year. That's what it's been since 2018. We should only keep 3 because I think we can use that extra roster spot maybe either in the safety or corner rooms or even potentially the linebackers room. I wouldn't want 4 tight ends, but you guys know that's kind of what John Gruden's done. But if we only keep 3, Matt Bushman's gonna be the guy, man. I think, and even if he's not, I think he'll be on the practice squad, and eventually Derek Carrier will be gone. Carrier doesn't bring a ton, but Matt Bushman, he had 650 yards in college in his last season that he played, which was 2 years ago. He obviously hurt his, I believe it was his Achilles. Matt Bushman had over 600 yards. That's more yards than Noah Fant, who's a first-round pick, right? Matt Bushman had more yards than Noah Fant in his last season. Now, Noah Fant, I'm not sure who he played with, and Matt Bushman did play with, I believe, the 2nd overall pick in the draft this past season as his quarterback. That does make it a little bit easier. But it'll be interesting. Another thing to note is Jimmy Morrissey, the center that the Raiders drafted from Pitt, right now is the 3rd center, which is kind of expected behind Nick Martin. Not surprised at all with that. But yeah, man, I am kind of interested in kind of seeing what happens. And I'm sorry if I missed any other super chats. I really was just kind of focused on the depth chart. I haven't been reading the comments too much, but some of you guys are saying, man, Cotton looks better, and I totally agree. That Raider fan said Arden Key is still talking shit. I saw his remarks that he was ready to leave the Raiders. And I don't know if I necessarily will hold that against Arden Key. At the end of the day, and I just realized that my man Read the Tape is in the chat here. He's about to join us in a second. My bad, man. I had the other screen pulled up, so I'm gonna add him as soon as he gets back, so I can talk to him about the depth chart. But just on the Arden Key situation, Arden Key said what he said, but he also got benched, right? And for him, that's something he wants to, probably get over, right? The fact that he was benched, he wants a shot to play. But I'm gonna add my man Read the Tape. What's going on, man? I'm really sorry I didn't see you there. I had the other screen kind of pulled up, but how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. What's going on? How you feeling about the depth chart?
Dude, I didn't even realize that it was about to be released, but I have it pulled up right now. How do you feel about Tanner Muse potentially being the starter, right? And I think right now he would be like the 4-3 base defense starter. I don't know, man. Like, I almost feel like maybe they just have it listed this way because they feel like Nick Kwiatkowski is a middle linebacker and he's not like a strong side linebacker. And when the 4-3 defense goes out there, then what would happen is Kwiatkowski will jump to middle linebacker and Nicholas Morrow will end up being like a strong side linebacker. Yeah. But it's still interesting that they kind of have him listed as like the first string guy. How do you feel about that?
Man, the thing for me is that I've been talking up Nick Kwiatkowski. So then when it comes out that he's getting benched, it's almost like, oh man, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what to say. I thought he played pretty well last year to where he wouldn't get benched. And I thought our linebackers were set with Morrow, Kwiatkowski, and Littleton. But when Muse comes out and they say that he's going to start, it's pretty interesting because we know that we wanted him to come in, moving from a safety to a linebacker, be able to cover the guys like Travis Kelce, be able to be fast and be able to body them and keep up with them. So, man, I just hope he plays well at the end of the day. I just hope it's a successful linebacker core. You know what I mean? So What do you think about it though?
Yeah,
What's
that's
like?
the thing is he going to, how's it going to work out when he's actually on the field? We obviously he went from a safety to a linebacker. I will say, yeah, right, year two, if you get drafted in the third round, year two, you got to start,
Yeah.
right? Now we were told he's going to just be a special teams guy, so I don't really know how I feel about that. But I do know that there was a guy that I talked to at camp, and he told me that when the Raiders ran their base defense, even though Tanner Muse was taking first team reps, that Kwiatkowski ended up coming in. And on just an overall level, like looking at all of the base defense plays, it was clear that Nick Kwiatkowski was the Raiders guy. It was not Tanner Muse. So I'm actually surprised that they have Tanner Muse listed as the first string guy.
I mean, at the end of the day, we still have to wait till week 1, right? Because we still have preseason to see what's going to go on, see how these guys play. But at the end of the day, man, Nick Kwiatkowski, I just put out a video and he was basically got burnt by Nick Bowers by Bowers. And I was just like, man, that's not looking good for you if you're getting burnt, and it's coming out that you're going to actually get benched for tomorrow. So we're going to see how it pans out, man. As long as, I believe in Gus Bradley. So if Gus Bradley thinks this is what the lineup is, then I'm going to just roll with it and see how it goes. I'm not going to really try and knock it before we really see what's it's going to produce.
That's the thing is like I do have the confidence in Gus Bradley as well. I was actually watching I was watching the Raiders like their scrimmage that they did with all the fans. And there's a guy that was there that I was talking to, and he took like 30 videos, and he sent me a link to watch all of them. And I was watching the Raiders defense, and almost every play they played a cover 3. The only difference, and I dig it, I think it's actually smart to do, is even though they played a cover 3 on every play, you could tell like on one play, the slot corner was dropping back 15 yards. On the next play, he dropped back 4 yards, and maybe he takes the running back. And then maybe it's like the linebacker, one of the two linebackers drops 15 yards and one drops 5. So they're kind of mixing it up with like their drops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But for sure, they play cover 3 on every single play. You can just tell it's a cover 3. But their drops were different. They're kind of mixing it up. And of course, they're still kind of learning, right?
No.
Do you think it's because of the fact that Kwiatkowski is not the best coverage guys that, and he's not the fastest? Like, I would argue that Littleton, Morrow, and Muse are faster than him in coverage.
I think it has to do with just that prototype linebacker being fast. And that's basically what Gus Bradley's looking for. I remember watching a presser with Gus Bradley when he was on the Chargers, and they got Kazir White, which was a safety at West Virginia, moved him to linebacker, and he had potential at playing Mike over there with the Chargers. So I get it. You know what I mean? It's not like it was kind of blindsided, but at the same time, Nick Kwiatkowski is still a good linebacker. So just to see him get benched is surprising, but also to see Muse come back off an injury of last year, right? Which we were kind of like thinking, okay, we drafted this guy, we didn't get to see him at all, and then potentially starting this year. So it gets me pretty excited though. At the end of the day, I want to see what Muse got at linebacker, and it's going to be exciting, man.
Yeah, one of the interesting things though is Kwiatkowski signed a 3-year contract. This year we're paying him 7.5. We can't cut him; we lose $7 million. Mm-hmm. Even next year, we're going to lose almost $3 million if we cut him. So if he's not starting for the Raiders, why are we going to pay him? And even next year, we're paying him $7 million as like the base, and almost $3 million would be the dead cap. I don't know, man. I don't know. And you know what? To be honest, I don't care. If Tanner Muse is better than Kwiatkowski, I've seen Kwiatkowski. He's a good football player. Yeah. So if Tanner Muse is better than him, then that's a good thing, right? That's not a bad thing.
That's the thing. Is it because he's better, or is it because he fits the scheme better? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to me, that's where it kind of like, I think you have to figure out your happy medium. Maybe he's not a better linebacker, but he fits the scheme that much more better where it just fills out the gap. You see what I'm saying? So I think it may be one of those situations, but also we haven't seen Tanner Muse out there really playing like that, Well, I haven't, what compared to what Coach Bradley's seeing out there on the field. So maybe he's been seeing development, and maybe I know Muse has been putting in work for sure. I follow him on Instagram. I see, they're out there training, but it's just interesting just to see that, you know. My biggest thing, and I said this before though, and it's kind of just across the roster. When you see we have 2 first-round picks getting benched, and then we have two you can say kind of big, but free agent signings from last year getting benched. You know, we have Carl Nassib, which hasn't really done anything.
Yep.
And then Nick Wachowski's getting benched, and like you said, if you try to cut these guys, you know you're going to lose money.
Yeah.
You have a first in Arnett and Cleveland Farrell, and they're both getting benched. So, you know, at some point, it's just going to all have to work out. We're going to have to figure something out because that's not going to get it done. You know what I mean?
So another thing to note, like if you think about it, that's a good point, right? You got all these high draft picks kind of getting benched, but you know some of them are still good players, and it's just that we're getting players that are better, right? So like
Yep.
I would say like our biggest issues over the last 2 seasons and why we fell off towards the second half of the season is because we weren't deep. We didn't have the depth, and because of that, injuries kind of caught up to us. And this year, you know, if Yannick Ngakoue gets hurt, well, we still have Carl Nassib and Cleveland Farrell, right? If Casey Hayward gets hurt, we might still have Rasul Douglas, who's a veteran, Damon Arnett, who's a first-round pick, still coming in. And at the end of the day, like long-term wise, these guys are young. They're still going to be on our roster too, right? Now, obviously, did you hear the remarks that Arden Key made about the Raiders and how he's
no, I haven't seen it. I know a lot of people have been talking about it, but you could tell me right now, I guess.
Yeah, so he said something to the tune of that he's glad and he was waiting to get out of the Raiders. He wanted to leave. He was glad that he was able to get out of the Raiders or be away from the Raiders. And you got to keep in mind, like, do you think that like Cleveland Farrell getting benched and Damon Arnett getting benched, they might feel the same way? Like, I can't wait to get out of here so I can go somewhere else where they might value me a little bit more. Because at the same time, like, I would love to re-sign those guys, like realistically, especially if they're like benched and then, you know, because they're going to be cheaper. Right now, we can't afford Jonathan Abram, Josh Jacobs, Max Crosby, Cleveland Farrell, Trayvon Mullen. We can't pay all these guys unless they're willing to take a little bit less money or if teams don't value them that high, right?
Yeah.
Another thing to note is if the team was so confident in Nicholas Morrow, don't you think they should have locked him in for more than 1 year?
Well, yeah, I think that with a few players, you know, especially when we got Solomon Thomas, but that's a good point that you were bringing up about Nicholas Morrow. If we really liked him, why we only signed him 1 contract? And the thing that I kept hearing was, well, the cap was different based on the COVID, and then next season there'll be more. And players just wanted to get a 1-year deal now so they could sign a better deal next year and basically get a longer term contract and more money. That's basically the excuse I heard. But, you know, I don't really know the scheme behind paying him just for 1 year because, like you were saying, with Solomon Thomas, we gave him a 1-year deal. If we really thought he was good, why didn't you just sign him to multiple years? Because if you were to really ball out this year as a defensive tackle, we would have had to cash him out. You know what I mean? Like a pretty good amount of money, twice as much as we're giving him already. But I don't even like the Solomon Thomas signing, but that was just the point of we're only signing these guys for 1 year. Now, is that based on because of what we did in the past to where we signed Kukowski and Nassib to longer deals, but they're not even being used. So we didn't want to sign guys to a longer deal. You see what I'm saying? So honestly, I don't know because we did that with every D tackle we have.
Yep. No, you know, it's crazy because, you know, you and I have the same thought of Solomon Thomas, right? Like, we don't really believe in him, right? He's already had so much chances to succeed and he hasn't done it. But interestingly, the Raiders have it listed right now, if you see it on the depth chart, that it's Quentin Jefferson or Solomon Thomas or Darius Philon. And that's interesting because I've never seen that before. I don't know if that's like new or what the hell that is, but they obviously listed it that way.
Well, what do you think about Gerald McCoy being so far down and the fact that we brought him in?
So here's the thing with Gerald McCoy. I'm a huge believer in McCoy, and I know people are going to say he's 33 coming back from an injury, but Gerald McCoy is a Hall of Fame football player, right? And if you don't think he's a Hall of Famer, he's borderline Hall of Fame, right? He has 60 sacks. That's probably top 15 ever for defensive tackles, right? He's had multiple, 6, 7+ sack seasons. He's a multiple-time All-Pro, 6, 7-time Pro Bowler. He's a great football player, and I know he's on the decline for sure because of his age. but he's a defensive tackle. You know, he's not a linebacker that needs to run and cover. He's not a corner that has to stick with 4.2 speed. He's a defensive tackle that's going to move 4 yards plus or minus anyway. And that's it. He's not going to move more than that. Playing O-line and D-line does not take the same, you know, getting older. Like Richie Incognito's 38 years old and he's still playing. You know, and there's other offensive linemen that are up there in age that are still playing. Like Sam Young was 33, I believe, and he wasn't terrible. He wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible either, right? He was still able to play last year, you know. So, you know, I want to talk about Gerald McCoy for sure. Let me just get the super chats before they disappear. Larry, thank you for the super chat. You said 2 first-round picks from the past 3 drafts. One being a top 5 pick, not starting, not good. I totally agree, man. Those are issues that the Raiders have to. They have to fix those issues. You can't take a guy with the 4th overall pick and have him not have success. And you know what's crazy about Clelin Ferrell? I was watching tape of him going up against Colt Miller over the scrimmage, or maybe it wasn't scrimmage. Don't quote me on that. But he was going up against Colt Miller. Saw a ton of clips, and Colt Miller kicked his ass every single time. He did not look better in pass rush. He, you know, like you would hope that he's better. He didn't look better, man. And again, I know it's early, so maybe he'll get better. Maybe Colt Miller just knows what type of person he is, but he did not look better, right? And that's hella disappointing for me to see that because I'm banking on Clelin Ferrell to have success this year. Even being the 3rd defensive end, that doesn't matter. He's going to play 40 to 60% of snaps anyways, right? Maybe even more than that.
Yeah, and the thing with Colt Miller, though, is that saying Colt Miller is thriving? Is he becoming that much more better of offensive lineman? Because honestly, when he was going up against Yannick, I felt like he did pretty well as well. But to your point about Clelin Ferrell, it's like I'm banking on him to do well also. I want him to do good. I think he does have a lot of potential there. He has the size. He's not slow for his size either. And if he doesn't show that potential this year or actually do the production that we know he could have, then it's bad. It's going to be bad for him, especially since he's already not starting. And I just don't like the fact that we got him with the 3rd or the 4th overall pick. And you know, we wanted a specific person, then we go get this specific guy that nobody else really wanted to get or thought about, and it doesn't pan out, and that's pretty frustrating.
No, and Mike, thank you for the super chat. Makes a great point. Do you agree with this? Like these guys were technically are getting benched, and they were technically drafted for a different defense. It's unfortunate, but expected. And I do kind of agree with that. I don't 100% agree with that for the simple fact that it's still Mike Mayock and John Gruden that kind of made the decision on these guys. So they, if they had the confidence that these are superstar guys, and they should have brought a coach to make sure they fit their scheme, right? Otherwise, you're kind of, I don't know. But I do agree with that. It's a good point.
It is a good point because it's like kind of what I was saying earlier with Nick Witkowski and Muse. Does Muse fit the scheme that much more better than Nick Witkowski is a linebacker, or how good? You see what I'm saying? So you got to kind of find the happy medium, and I guess certain players are just going to have to get benched. That's just how it goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think about it, we still have a couple guys that are still there. We have the Mullen, we have Abram, Crosby. We got Hankins, Littleton. Morrill just kind of got upgraded, So one guy stepped down, but another kind of gets upgraded. Muse gets upgraded, which we already had. So some guys are getting promotions, some are getting demoted, but I think it's just the way or who is getting demoted, right? It's not like, Eric Harris got shipped out. He got demoted for sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's not the same because we didn't expect Nick Witkowski to come in, pay him money, and then get benched.
Exactly.
But at the same time, we got a guy in Morrow, which he's been with us his whole career, and he's pretty much thriving, right? He's going in the right direction. So that's always good to see. And then we have Tanner Muse, who we drafted. He was hurt, but we see he's supposedly going to start. So that's another good thing. So if you want to look at it from that angle, it's good that we're having at least Tanner Muse, a young guy, stepping up and taking a starting role.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is we haven't seen Divine Diablo practice, and nor have the Raiders. So is he going to jump Kukowski as well, like when he starts playing? And we don't know, right? Because he's been hurt.
Yep.
So, like, how's that going to play out as well? I'm disappointed with looking at this, but I kind of have a feeling that this is not how it's going to be. The playing time is not going to be like this either. I don't know. I still have a feeling that even when it comes to nickel packages, I still feel like Kwiatkowski is going to come in there. Because, in my opinion, Corey Littleton is not great against the run. And I don't think Nicholas Morrow is great against the run either. I will say he's a good blitzer, right? He does a good job getting after the quarterback, which I don't know if that's something Gus Bradley's going to even do. But,
Yep.
if we start struggling against the run, like, I don't know. I feel like Kwiatkowski's our best run defender.
No, for sure. He is our best run defender. And that's kind of why I was like, he's locked in at middle linebacker.
Yeah.
Do you think Nick Kwiatkowski is that much of a liability in pass coverage?
So here's what I kind of feel like Gus Bradley does. I think Gus Bradley puts 8 guys in the box, and he doesn't need the best run defenders because he puts more guys in the box than you can block. So because of that fact, we're able to play the run a little bit better because you got 8 guys in there. So you don't need great guys to stop the run because you just have more numbers in the box.
Yep.
So what he does, we're so overcommitted to stopping the run that you need guys that can then quickly make up ground and get back after and cover. I think there was a Chargers linebacker that said something like that just recently, like maybe 2 or 3 months ago. He was talking about how the current Chargers coordinator is better because they don't have to commit to the run so much where it leaves them vulnerable in the pass game. So again, we'll find out, man. I'm excited. I'm really.
I think
really
I remember also hearing that linebacker talk about how with Gus Bradley's system, he would have to chase a guy like 30 yards downfield or something like that.
Yep.
Was that the same? Was that the same
It
thing
was
you're
the
talking
same thing.
about?
I think he was saying like he was mismatched on Tyreek Hill or something like that. That was the same guy.
And I mean, that's just probably how his defenses ran. I mean, I've seen his defense, and it's just weird because when you watch that cover 3, how he runs it, it's a weird thing right there in the middle where the linebackers are at. A linebacker can get stuck on a guy when they cross the field. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm just maybe that's why Morrow has to start in middle linebacker because he might be chasing the guy 30 yards downfield.
That's a good point. And Morrow's
same with Muse. Same with Muse.
Those guys are former safeties, man, both of them. And I think that does make a difference for Gus Bradley. And of course, Corey Littleton's highly paid. I've always said Divine Diablo is there to replace Corey Littleton. And again, you can maybe switch Tanner and Divine Diablo, right? One plays weak, one plays strong. But I don't think the Raiders are going to keep Corey Littleton past this season. I think he signed a 3-year contract, but only 2 years were guaranteed. I think, or maybe it was a 2-year contract, but I don't think we're going to keep him past this season unless he really changes his game around and we feel like he's worth, because right now he's like the 7th highest paid linebacker. He didn't play as the 7th best linebacker last year. I would argue that both Morrow and Kwiatkowski outplayed him.
Yep. And that's another thing. Nick Kwiatkowski outplays Littleton, but he's still getting benched. So, it's just that's just what's interesting to me at the end of the day is just who we're paying, who's getting benched, who we're drafting at what spot, and then they're getting benched. That's the most interesting thing I think about when I see this depth chart. And of course, it says as of August 9th. Yep. So we still have a while till week 1 when we play the Ravens.
Yep.
But that's just the most interesting thing to me, and that pops out. But if you had to choose one position here, I guess, which one is the most surprising to you, whether it's who's second on the depth chart or who's third or who's even started?
I mean, it has to be Tanner Muse, right?
Yeah, okay.
It has to be the fact that he's starting and Kwiatkowski isn't. But I kind of feel like the reason why it's listed this way is for the sole reason that Kwiatkowski is a middle linebacker.
Yep.
And they think Morrow's a middle linebacker. So it has to be listed them as 1, 2, and Tanner Muse as the strong side. But I do have a feeling that when we do come out with 3 linebackers, it's not going to be Tanner Muse, and it will be Kwiatkowski. That's kind of how I feel. Cool Zay 1995, thank you for the super chat. You said, let's go. You guys streaming the game for Saturday. Who do you think is going to shine in the linebacker core? I am not streaming the game. Raid, are you going to be live during the game?
During the game, I'm not 100% sure, man. Not 100% sure what's going on during the game.
Okay, if you go live after the game, I'll be on. I'll probably knock my video out. I'll upload it and then I'll come on to your channel. There's over 400 people deep. If you guys can hit that thumbs up button, I would really, really, really appreciate it. I want to get your thoughts, Raid, on the defensive backs. Free safety, strong safety first. Specifically, the fact that Dalen Leavitt is the second string free safety right now. And then Tyree Gillespie is not listed as a free safety, and instead he's listed as the third string strong safety. How do you feel about that?
I'm surprised, honestly. A lot of surprises on this depth chart, man, because I feel like Tyree Gillespie was a free safety in college, you know.
Well, Gus said that
I
earlier
believe Mike
too,
Mayock came out and said also that he would
Mike
play
Mayock,
free safety. So, and I believe Gruden even said, like paraphrasing, he said middle of the defense.
Yep, he did say that.
It's surprising to see him third at the strong safety spot. But I don't know. Maybe he's just, I don't know, learning behind Carl Joseph. Maybe I have no idea what that's about. I don't want Leavitt out there as our second string. I don't think he'll be able to fulfill that position unless he developed into something we don't know.
Yep.
But nah, I don't even know who Roderick Teamer is also. So
if Roderick Teamer, Tyree, Chargers.
Yeah, if Teamer and Gillespie are on the same playing field, I guess at this point, then that's not a good look for Gillespie. Because although I made a video about Gillespie and it was, you know, I didn't say the greatest things about him. I do like Gillespie. He did pop. He just made plays. You know, he's one of those guys that he just made plays. And so it's kind of surprising to see him on the depth chart at the third spot.
Yeah, that is interesting that Gillespie is at that third spot, because I thought he would be the second string free safety, right? Like that's where I thought he would be. Now, there were reports last week that Dalen Leavitt, Trayvon Merrick, and Carl Joseph were all rotating in with the first string free safeties, and that Jonathan Abram was the only strong safety. No one else was rotating with him. He was taking every single rep as strong safety. But the free safety, and specifically that Carl Joseph took the first free safety reps, then Merrick came in, then Leavitt came in. I do think Carl Joseph, you know, we have like swing offensive linemen, swing tackles, swing guards. I think Carl Joseph will for sure be playing both free and strong, especially if we put Trayvon Merrick in the slot, which I think we will eventually sometime. Like, there's no way he doesn't play the slot. I think Carl Joseph's going to come in at that free safety spot. And Leavitt's young, right? I don't think he was a rookie last year. And maybe he was, or maybe he was a second-year player last year, but he's still young. I think he still makes the roster. I think he'll be like the fifth safety. I think ultimately he'll end up behind Tyree Gillespie. There's no way he's going to take reps over Gillespie, especially since Gillespie was hurt. He will be healthy soon, right? I think he just started practicing yesterday or the day before. So maybe he just needs those reps.
You know, I think Leavitt, he's going to stick around regardless to me, because he's that special teams guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the special teams are pretty important. So I think he's just going to stick around for that sole reason. And to bring it to special teams real quick, what I noticed about the kick return, it says Jalen Richard, but from what I believe, Jalen Richard is hurt.
That's a good point.
And it says Kenyon Drake is the second on the list for kick return. So it's kind of it, you know, when it comes to special teams, are we going to see Kenyon Drake actually make some kick returns? I don't know. And then you got Henry Ruggs right after that. And then DJ Turner. So it's like, are we going to see Ruggs and Drake return kicks? I don't think so. I just don't see that really happening. I personally wouldn't want to see those guys return kicks, because
you would not.
It's dangerous. It's
dangerous. No, I
agree.
agree.
It's just kind of dangerous. I'd rather see like Ruggs return punts or something like that.
Yeah.
But as far as kick returns, man, maybe Drake, but Ruggs, I don't know if he'd be able to hold up, but maybe he could. You know what I mean? I just wouldn't want him to get hurt on a play like that. And then it was kind of like, it's just not worth it to me. You know what I mean? But what do you think about that, the special teams so far?
That's interesting, because I never realized that Kenyon Drake was second behind Jalen Richard, who's obviously hurt. I don't think Kenyon Drake's returning kicks. Now, I will say this. Henry Ruggs, I know like you don't want him to get hurt, and kick return is a perfect way for him to get hurt, right? Because if he's a receiver and he catches the ball, he can run out of bounds or go down. And I'm fine with that. I don't need Henry Ruggs to try to truck, a safety or a line. I don't need that. Just go down. It's fine. And get ready to make the next play. But on a kick return, he's not going to go down, right? He's going to run, and guys are going to run full speed and hit him.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all. You know, I'd be okay with him. Like, I think he has the ability to take one to the house.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, DJ Turner is more than capable, right?
Yep.
And we'll talk about him and the receivers in a second, too. I think Hunter Renfrow as the punt returner is great. I think Hunter Renfrow is a great punt returner. I think returning punts, what you have to do for returning punts is you got to get 5 to 10 yards on every punt, right? Because if you catch the ball at the 27-yard line and you get 7 yards, you're now at the 35-yard line. And that's so much better to start off at because now you only need 20 yards and you're in field goal range, right? And Renfrow does that, right? So I think he's a good punt returner. I don't know, man.
I like Renfrow at returning punts as well. So I think that's locked in right there. If DJ Turner makes the team, then will we see him return? Will he jump Ruggs and Drake and just basically return the kicks? That's what I'm kind of curious right now. Who's going to return the kicks? Because I believe Rashard will be out for week 1.
Yep, most likely.
So I'm just kind of curious who's going to return the kicks. I don't want anybody to go out there, return kicks, and start fumbling and messing up because it's important, man. You know what I mean? You go out there, you catch it, and then all of a sudden you fumble. You can give them the ball in our own field, give them that field position. It's like, man, all because Rashard wasn't there. And it's interesting because people want Rashard cut. Some people don't want him cut. He got the cap. We can make up for it. But stuff like that is pretty important. But oh no, we'll see what happens. It's going to be an important part of the game, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, special teams is so important, man. Punt return, I think, is more important than kick return. Because with kick return, you get the ball at the 25. That's pretty good. You probably won't get to the 25 anyways.
Nope.
I will say this, though. You have to have 2 kick returners back there, right? Not just one.
Nope.
So, like, if you just look at the 4, I mean, chances are Kenny and Drake or Ruggs will be out there. Did Kenny and Drake, did he ever return kicks or punts?
Yeah, so when he was in Miami, he was returning kicks, I believe. And in college, he was returning kicks for sure. But I believe it was Miami he was returning kick returns, not just punting.
Okay. You know what's interesting, just kind of sticking with the running backs, and Alabama guys specifically, with like Ruggs and Kenny and Drake, and we got 4 Alabama running backs now. How do you feel that the 3rd running back on the depth chart now is BJ Emmons, who's the rookie? We didn't bring him in initially. We just brought him in like 2 weeks ago, and he's already jumped Trey Regis. That's crazy to think.
I don't know what's going on with that 3rd spot. You know what I mean? With Jalen Richard going hurt, it's gonna be. I just don't know how vital that 3rd spot is gonna be. Is Kenny and Drake gonna be able to step up and be that pass blocker? Because if Drake could be a pass blocker as well, then I don't really see where Jalen Richard would fit in outside of that special teams, which could be easily replaced with like a DJ Turner, like you were saying, or something. But with that 3rd spot, I don't know how crucial it will be, but I think it will be. In BJ Emmons, I don't really know too much about him. I have to go watch a few things on him. You know what I mean? I watched a little bit on Trey Regis. I know who Bo Scarborough is. But BJ Emmons, man, that dude must be a sleeper or something. Because personally, I don't know too much.
Just
about
the backstory of him. He went to Alabama and then he transferred to FAU, which is Florida Atlantic University. I think that's what it is. FAU. It's a good school. It's definitely a good school. The thing with him is he went to the Seahawks, and the Seahawks waived him and picked up another play. I think they signed a tight end or something, and then they waived him. So it wasn't like he was just available. There's a chance that John Gruden wanted him over Trey Regis or over Garrett Greshek, but maybe BJ Emmons decided I'm going to go to the Seahawks instead of the Raiders because I have a better chance or whatever his thinking was.
Yeah.
But they waived him, and then that was our opportunity, and John Gruden brought him in. So we don't know if John Gruden wanted him before, right?
I mean, that's a good point. At some point, we're going to have to figure it out because it's really interesting because Jalen Richard is hurt, and we haven't cut him yet. Do you think Jalen Richard is going to get cut for even these guys to fill that 3rd running back spot? Like, what do you think is the point of keeping Jalen Richard?
So I don't know how long Richard's out for. I don't know if that information out there. I've been busy the last 3 days, so I've not been keeping up. But if
I want to say I've seen something about 5 weeks, week 5, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so let's just say he's out for at least week 1. I don't know, like you would have to put him on some sort of injury list, right? And
Yep.
I don't know if the IR is still 3 weeks like it was last year, or he'd have to sit out 3 to 4 games. I could see us putting him on the injury list, but keeping him on the roster. Jalen Richard, we can cut him, but we don't save a ton of cap. So at this point, we would only be cutting him if we do cut him because there's a running back better than him.
Yep.
Otherwise, he's still on this roster. Some people have pointed out that Jalen Richard is still a better pass blocker than Kenyon Drake. But I find it hard to believe that Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake don't get 95 to 98% of the snaps. I would find it really, really, really hard. Unless one of them were banged up, I find it really hard that we would bring in Jalen Richard or someone else to come in and pass block, right? Because they don't bring much, right? Like in Jalen Richard doesn't bring much in terms of pass blocking. And even if he's in there to pass block, like he's going to have to go and run a route, or Carr might change it and he might hand the ball off to Richard. Richard's not a good running back. He's not terrible, but he's not He's
not good at running like Drake or Jacobs could have been.
Absolutely. So that'll be interesting to kind of see. Tight ends. So Darren Waller, I'm huge on Foster Moreau. I think he's a special talent. Another player that I think special is Matt Bushman, the rookie from BYU. I shouldn't say special because I haven't seen him play, but he had more yards in college than Noah Fant had. And Noah Fant was the 20th overall pick for the Denver Broncos. And Matt Bushman didn't play his final season because of an injury. But they have him tied with Derek Carrier as the third string, right? And what's interesting is we've kept 4 tight ends every year since John Gruden's been here. So we're likely to keep 4 tight ends again this year. What do you think about that? And what do you think just in general about the tight end? And we'll talk about Darren Waller too, because apparently he has an injury, man, and that'll be interesting.
I think when it comes to Matt Bushman, I think we're trying to find that replacement for Derek Carrier or a Lee for a Lee. You know what I mean? We either get Carrier or we get Lee. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think we're trying to find that young potential replacement for those guys. And if Matt Bushman's the one, then he's the one. I know he's a big target. And he's that type. He's the type that Gruden will want. I think he would be able to place Derek Carrier. But about the tight ends, Nick Bowers was the one that burnt Nick Kwiatkowski in that scrimmage, and I was like, man, the separation he had, it was too much, and it made Nick Kwiatkowski look bad. So, I mean, Bowers got a touchdown out there during the scrimmage, so maybe he'll get a little bit more looks. He might be a sleeper, but we'll see what happens, man. And the Darren Waller injury, go ahead, man. I'll let you take that one because I know he was there at the scrimmage because I seen like a little video and a little sighting of him, but he wasn't geared up, nothing like that. He just had his jersey on. So what do you think? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so like a lot of players were not out there, right? A lot of players were kind of given time to rest. I will say this with Waller, right? Like his injury is a concern, but I will say the one thing that made me feel better is the fact that he still did run out with the team during the scrimmage. He at least he ran out when his name was called and that kind of stuff, which means it's not like that serious, right? It's not like an Achilles or he can't walk. He's not on crutches. I think John Gruden did say that he should be fine. They're kind of just, making sure it's safe. But I wonder, like, what happened? Was he just running and he twisted an ankle or a knee or whatever? Or did he get hit, right? Like, did Jonathan Abrams smack him or something? Like, what happened? I really want to know.
It might be one of those injuries to where it's like you want to give him rest.
That's the thing. And you want to rest Darren Waller. Like, he's been consistent for the last 2 seasons. And, if Darren Waller got hurt, I'll be honest with you, man. I think we might have one of the most talented playmakers offensively in the NFL, right? And I know a lot of these guys are underrated. For example, Foster Moreau. If Foster Moreau was the Raiders starting tight end and Darren Waller was not a thing for the Raiders, Foster Moreau could put up 1,000 yards, right? Based off of the targets because he's talented. At the same time, I'm not going to put any expectations on Matt Bushman yet, but just based off of college, he was dominant in college, right? College tight ends don't put up 1,000 yards, right? 650 yards for a college tight end's a shit ton of yards, right? At the same time, like we're hearing Bryan Edwards is like this next superstar, right? I talked to a guy in camp and he told me how he's he's just beating everybody, and people can't stop him. Like, he's bigger than guys, he's quicker than guys, and he looks like the next big thing for the Raiders. And then at the same time, we're hearing that Henry Ruggs is burning Trayvon Mullen and Jonathan Abram in double coverage, and that he's just beating guys deep. So it makes you think, like, that's just Edwards and Ruggs. Like, Hunter Renfrow can still beat a ton of people. Josh Jacobs is still a top 7 running back. Kenyon Drake is potentially a top 15 running back. Like, we have so many freaking playmakers. At this point, it's like, are we going to have enough targets to go around, right? Because that's what it's going to come down to. We have a ton of targets, or a ton of weapons on offense. How do you feel about it?
I feel pretty good being the off season, but you know me, man, I'm not the most optimistic person. You know, I'm just like, man, I'm finna chill. You know, I don't want to jump out the window yet. Brian Edwards, he's got to stay healthy. Yep. You know, I feel like he's who we knew what Brian Edwards was. You know what I mean? Last year, if he would have stayed healthy, he would have put on for himself, and people would have recognized him. But he got hurt. He had lingering injuries. So now this season, you know, he might get that recognition that he deserves if he stays healthy. With Ruggs, I guess he put on about 13 pounds, and he's maintaining the weight. So that's going to be interesting as well, because the first game last year he got hurt when we played the Carolina Panthers. So I think a lot this year has to do with us staying healthy and having that depth like you talked about earlier. So I think our wide receiver core is pretty nice. It's one thing I do kind of worry about, because I still think we have to show that production. We have to show the production, you know. In camp, they might look nice. It's the off season. But at the end of the day, we got to show that production, and we got to make sure that young trio we have with Edwards, Ruggs, and Renfrow is just solid. And we know Renfro's solid because he broke Amik Robertson. You know what I mean? He got Amik Robertson about to get cut. So I think we're locked in with wide receiver. And then with John Brown behind Ruggs, and then you got Snead behind Renfrow, and Zay, he's gonna probably stick around just because he's just part of the team. You know what I mean? He's that dude that's always around. So our wide receiver core is looking pretty good. I just got to see the production really to be confident in them. That's all.
So another point that someone made, and tell me how you feel about this. What is the because you know there's no injury, or at least we didn't see an injury. What is the chance that Darren Waller wants a contract extension, or he wants to get paid more? Because right now he's getting ripped off straight up. He's getting $6 million this year, and he's going to get $6 million for each of the next 2 years. So basically 3 more seasons at $6 million. He's worth more than that, man. He's worth 12 to 17, whatever the highest paid tight end. He's worth that. What do you think? What are the chances that's what it is?
Personally, that's my thoughts. And I've asked a couple people, and they're like, no, it's just an injury, you know, just a minor injury, nothing crazy. But me personally, I think it's a contract thing. I think the Raiders know that they have to give him more money, and they kind of want to give him the money now instead of wait, and he balls out this year. You know what I mean? He just blows up even more this year, then you got to pay him even more. So I think it would be smart for them just to do it. You know what I mean? Get it over with if they can. And I think that's what it is. Personally, I think that's what it is. But if it's not, then cool. If he has a good year, another good year, then he's just going to get his price tag is only going to go up. So what do you think about it? Do you think that's what it is? And when I ask you, it's either yes or no. And me, I'm going to say, yeah, I think that's what it is, man. I honestly do.
That's a good point. I kind of feel like yes. I kind of do feel like that's what it is. $6 million, Darren Waller, second most receiving yards last year. Top 12, I think, in receiving yards in general between receivers, tight ends, running backs, all that stuff. I think there's a chance that he does want to get paid. You know, he's 28, so if he gets a raise right now, by the time he's 32, 33, he'll be able to get one more contract right before he starts hitting that decline.
So I just looked up what Jared Cook got paid, and he's getting $6 million from the Chargers.
That's crazy. Yeah, like this. And you know, Darren Waller doesn't come off as the type of player to make it into a public thing, but they got to do right by Darren Waller. You know, I believe that certain positions matter, certain players deserve to be paid. You know, I'd pay. You know, for me personally, I would pay defensive tackles. I would pay tight ends. Obviously, your quarterbacks. I wouldn't pay running backs. I wouldn't pay defensive ends unless, you know, it made sense, right? Like Yannick Ngakoue makes sense at 13 million, but I wouldn't pay him 25 million, right? Because then that sets your team back. Max Crosby might make sense at 14, 15 million, but if he wants 19 to 23 million dollars, I don't know if I would bring him back, right?
No.
I think cap is how teams are built, you know, and you gotta pick and choose what you're gonna pay and what you're going to replace. I think Darren Waller needs to get paid. Are there outside the top 3 tight ends, right? Waller, Kelce, Kittle. You can argue the rest of the tight ends are just kind of average, right? Like the only difference makers are those 3. Outside that, there's not a ton of difference makers at tight end.
Yeah, and that's pretty much those are the 3 right there. Everybody that argues who's the top 3 outside of that top 3, it doesn't really matter. Like they are the top 5. Those 3 guys are the top 5, and then it's just whoever else. You know what I mean? Like they're 1A, B, and C. Some people, have it all over the place. But we have to pay Waller, and I think that's what it is. And we're just gonna have to get it over with. Just pay him now and get it, like I said, get it over with. I don't know how much Kelce gets paid. I think George Kittle is still on like a his contract from the draft, I believe, isn't he?
No, he got paid. He might be on his contract, but he did get paid.
Okay,
so maybe that hasn't kicked in yet. I looked at Kelce's. Right now it's about 12, but I think in 2 years it's 17. So being 17 million. So I think he might have taken a pay cut or something like that and pushed some of his cap to the future years. But he's probably getting like 15, which is almost like it's a little bit more than a third, of what Waller's getting.
Yeah, that's what 150% more.
Exactly.
So you look at that, but like you were saying about Waller, I don't think Waller's that type of guy to where he's gonna, sit back and be like, "Oh, I demand money," But at the same time, you have to be fair, like you were saying. And Waller's agent could have been like, "Hey, I think it's time for us to negotiate another contract and just see what probably John Gruden, Mike Mayock have to say about it." You know what I mean? So maybe they're just in talks and they're going to re-sign him. I think that's what it is, and it'd be smart just to do it now before he just blows the roof off of the damn Allegiant Stadium, and then we got to pay him, 17 instead of potentially he might work with something like 12 to 15 or something like that. You know what I mean?
And because that's a big difference.
Older,
yeah.
Waller's getting older, but he doesn't have a lot of football on his body. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
His first 3 years he didn't really play. So he still has a lot of potential left, and that's probably why it'd be better off just to sign him now for like however long, 4 years or whatever it would be.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is like he's still 28. I think he turns 29 in a couple months. And he hasn't reached his the potential he has. He hasn't reached it yet. Like he still has
the ceiling yet.
Yeah, exactly. Cash Money, thank you for the super chat. Said, don't you think they would have put Orr by Quitt's name if he were starting in different packages? I like that we're faster on defense. I don't think so. I don't think they would. And I get what you're saying because they did that for Quinton, Solomon, and Darius Philon. But those guys are fighting to potentially start. I think this kind of says that Gronkowski will not be the starter ahead of Nicholas Morrow, specifically for like the nickel defense, right? But thank you for the super chat. I really, really appreciate it. I want to ask you about the offensive lineman. We know who we know who the top 3 guards are. We don't really know who the 4th guard is. Last year, we kept basically a starter and 1 backup at every single offense line position. So we had a total of 10 offense linemen. Who do you think is going to be the 4th guard? At the same time, who do you think is going to be the backup center?
To be honest, I don't really know any of those guys besides Lester Cotton. Patrick Omame, I'm not really familiar with. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that dude's name. Patasu or something like that.
Yep.
I know I seen him out. I seen that dude out in practice for sure. I remember seeing him in practice. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I think it's Lester Cotton. We've kept him around for how long now? So unless this dude Patrick Omame steps up, or one of these guys that I'm not familiar with, then I could see that. But I could also see Nick Martin swinging over potentially. I don't think he would just sit there with his kind of potential, with his veteran presence. He would just sit there as center. If a guard went down and he had to step up, I think he would be able to step up and fill that role outside of John Simpson or Denzel Good move into a tackle or whatever the situation may be. So I would probably stick with that. I'm gonna stick with the familiar names that I know.
Yeah,
But
I
I
feel
know
like
you the offensive line guy, so you tell me, man. You tell me because I'm not sure about Amame and Ayinger, or how you pronounce his name.
yeah. So Parker, I think it's Inger. Don't quote me. I think that's how it is. I watched him in practice, bro, and he got his ass kicked by who was it? I think it was Matt Dickerson was just dominating him. And then even a couple other videos that I seen, he was getting beat up. I will say, I think the reason why Patrick Amama is listed as the second right guard is because of the fact that John Simpson's the swing guy, and they just happen to list him as the left guard. But he's the swing guy, right? So like Patrick Amame is not the backup right guard. If Denzel Good went down, John Simpson's the backup right guard.
Exactly.
At the same time, they listed Lester Cotton as a left guard as well, and maybe they didn't put too much thought into it. But I do think it's going to be between Lester Cotton and Patrick Omeme. I think it's going to be between one of those two guys. At center, I think it's going to be Nick Martin, because Nick Martin can also play guard, right? He has that potential to be the swing guy.
Nope.
Tackle is going to be interesting, right? Because Brandon Parker, in my opinion, sucks, right? Like I really think he sucks.
No, I think the same thing, but I know I watched your videos, and if I recall, you think he plays better at the left than the right, correct? Do you think he plays that much more better at the left to where he could potentially hold it down, or is he just that bad to where it's like you kind of just got to let him go regardless? And the same thing with Jared Jones-Smith. I haven't seen anything from that dude, honestly. I just know he's a huge human. Like, he's a big old human, you know what I mean? So I know he's going to be out there and be a body to block somebody, but I don't know how well his technique or his football skills are.
That's the thing, is we got to definitely watch him a little bit more. We'll see that in preseason, right?
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to watch the preseason game. Like, I'll watch every play at least 7 or 8 times to watch every single guy. Interestingly, I do think that, like, so the thing with Brandon Parker is he is a better left tackle. I don't have the confidence in him, but this is the final year that I would give him. I'm overdeveloping him. If you haven't developed by year 4, you're not going to develop. You are what you are. No. And maybe in year 8 or 9 or 10, he'll get better, but I say we move on. There was a guy that the Chargers drafted, and I'll say it right now. His name is Brendan Hymus from Nebraska. I think they drafted him in like the 6th or 7th round. That guy's going to be starting one day. That guy's a great football player. And I would have rather taken him in the 7th round and let him take, potentially fight it out with Brandon Parker. Because at this point, they're only keeping Brandon Parker because he was a 3rd round pick. I think, was he the first pick in the 3rd round or something like that? He was a highly picked guy. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense, man. Like,
I mean, to your point, what round was Gabe Jackson picked in?
He was a 3rd round pick.
Exactly. And how long did he start and hold down the spot for us? I know it's not the tackle spot. The tackle spot takes a little bit more, but that's just an example. We picked up an offensive lineman in the 3rd round. And he's a starter his whole career, basically. So,
but he started right away too, right? Like, exactly. I don't remember. Did he start like from the beginning of his rookie year, or did he come in during the rookie year? I don't remember.
I want to say he started, man. I really want to say he started. I don't remember that far back. That was some years ago to remember every offensive lineman for that season. I don't remember exactly, but I think he did, man. I want to say he did. If he didn't start that year, he probably came in during sometime his rookie season and just took over since then.
Yeah, and the thing though is like, we saw with him early that he was a good football player. Yeah. Right. In fact, one of my first film breakdowns was Gabe Jackson. It was one of my it was a long time ago. I don't even know if I have that video. It was terrible, but I do think that, like, with Brandon Parker, we're hanging on to him too long. Like, if he's not the guy, go get another tackle, right? Yeah. Because injuries happen, right? And I haven't seen Jared Jones-Smith, so I don't know. I'll hold off on him. But if Coy Miller goes down or Alex Leatherwood goes down, I don't know if I trust Brandon Parker. Like, I would rather have Denzel Good play tackle and John Simpson play guard.
And that's what I was gonna ask you. Do you think that we would move? Now, do you think we would move Denzel Good to right tackle, as far as moving him to right tackle, and then moving Leatherwood to left tackle? Or would you just leave Leatherwood at right tackle and just fill that spot with Good at the left side?
So I don't know if Good would play left tackle.
Exactly.
I think Good would only play right tackle, and that's maybe because he puts his right hand down. So that adjustment of putting your right hand to your left hand might be too much for him. He might not feel comfortable. And I think that's why Brandon Parker's a better left tackle, is because I think he, maybe it's like a mental thing. He processes with his left hand down at a better rate than he would with his right hand. But it'll be interesting, man. We got to make sure we have the backup tackle. I do
with Alex Leatherwood, are you confident in him? Because I know he played all up and down the line. So are you confident with him playing left tackle, making that transition?
I would. I 100% would. If Cole Miller got hurt, I think the first thing that's going to happen, I do think Brandon Parker will get the first opportunity at left tackle. Let's say, for example, if it's a one-game thing, it's Brandon Parker's job. But let's say Colt Miller week 1 tore his ACL and he's out for the season. All right, now you need a long-term plan for the future. I think at that point, it makes sense to put Alex Leatherwood at left tackle and then potentially kick out Denzel Good to right tackle and John Simpson at right guard. But if you think about that, why the hell do we have Brandon Parker if we have to shuffle around our whole offensive line? Like, what's the point of having Brandon Parker if we have to do that? It doesn't make sense.
It's a good point. That's a good point. And at the end of the day, like you were kind of saying, why don't we just go get the replacement at this point? Wasn't his first year he was hurt anyways?
Are you saying with Colton?
Brandon Parker?
Brandon Parker,
wasn't he hurt his first year?
He came in and he played his first year. He gave up, I think, like 9 or 10 sacks. He had a terrible first year. Cole Miller did too. Both rookies sucked.
Oh yeah, year, right? I remember Cole Miller, man. I remember Cole Miller.
So sure. It's interesting. We'll see. I want to shift over. I want to finish this video and I want to talk about Gerald McCoy. We didn't really talk about it.
Oh yeah. I like McCoy.
Gerald McCoy. I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions, man. I say he's a Hall of Famer, and I think he can still play. I think the Raiders, we tell John Gruden and Mike Mayock all the freaking time, like, do this, fix the team, do this, do that. Yep. And for parts of it, they have done it, man. Like, we're saying go get Corey Littleton, and they got Corey Littleton. Some people were saying you got to bring back Nick Morrow. I'll be honest, I was not saying that. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But we brought him back. Some people were saying that. And then some people were saying we need to go get Gerald McCoy or Geno Atkins. And we brought in Gerald McCoy. And again, Gerald McCoy is a Hall of Fame player. And, you can argue that, but, maybe not first ballot, but he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day. We needed a guy that's going to solidify the 3 tech spot because we're missing it. The thing I don't want to see is I don't want to see Max and Yannick getting pressure from the outsides, getting in there, causing havoc, and then for Jonathan Hankins and Quentin Jefferson to do absolutely nothing in the middle of the defense. We're not going to have that now. Right now we have freaking, Gerald McCoy is not blockable by one person, right? You have to double team him. You have to think about how you're going to chip with him. He's not a guy you can block one-on-one. Hankins is a guy you can block one-on-one because he doesn't have a ton of pass rush moves. This takes our defensive line to a whole new level. Any doubt I had with the offense or with the defense in general, McCoy kind of puts that away from me. Yeah. Like, I really think he's going to be a special player for the Raiders. And again, I don't know if it's 25 snaps a game because I don't think it's going to be 40 to 50. It'll be, he'll play 50% of the time. I have a lot of faith in him, man. What do you think? You think he'll come in and do anything? You think he'll make the roster? What do you think about that?
See, I like Gerald McCoy. I like the pickup. I actually like the free agent pickups we got this year. And Casey Hayward and Gerald McCoy, as far as those veteran guys. Because Casey Hayward, I feel like he's proven. He's a proven pro. He's a proven cornerback. It's not like going to get a Bleedy Wilson or a Roswell Douglas, in my opinion. I know he's a little bit older, but still, I don't think he's that bad compared to those guys. And when you talk about Gerald McCoy, to your point, the age that you were saying earlier, the age at a defensive tackle spot really, it's flexible. You can be flexible at that spot. Calais Campbell, I remember when he got traded, and I was like, yo, why didn't we trade for Calais Campbell? I know he's old, but that doesn't mean anything. That just means he got grown man strength still. You know what I mean? He's not
Exactly.
going to get weaker. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So I think it was a good pickup. I like it, and I kind of want to see him out there and playing, taking some, getting some playing time and taking snaps. Honestly, I think when I looked up his stats last year, he still got not last year because
Yeah.
what it transpired, but the year before, I believe he got a handful of sacks. It was 5 sacks, I believe. So we just have to see what happens, man, because I think he will get playing time. I think he will. And also, I think he's here to kind of help develop some of these guys in the defensive tackle room because I've seen 3 different videos, honestly, and it was him talking to Solomon Thomas, and they're like motioning, pass rush moves. And it was kind of interesting. Like, did they bring him in to kind of teach these guys some a few things so they have that veteran, true, like legit veteran presence in that defensive tackle, defensive line room? Because when you think about it, Yannick is still pretty young,
Yeah.
and he's on the edge. Quentin Jefferson and John Hankins are vets, but they never really reached that, that perennial, that elite level. You're talking about Hall of Fame with Gerald McCoy. Those guys didn't never reach that point. So I think
Yep.
with Gerald McCoy, he brings that presence. Same thing with Casey Hayward in DB room, not Hall of Fame level, but he's at that Pro Bowl. He was at that Pro Bowl level, so he could teach a few things. So I think Gerald McCoy was a really good pickup, either him or Geno Atkins. But I like the Gerald McCoy pickup. I do.
Yeah, I like the McCoy pick a little bit more.
Yep.
If we brought in Geno Atkins too, like right now to come compete, I'd be fine with it, honestly.
Yep.
To be honest, like if you ask me, would I rather have Geno Atkins or Solomon Thomas? I'd probably take Geno Atkins. Why is it that those videos that you're talking about, where McCoy was like teaching Solomon Thomas, why is it that Solomon Thomas kind of looked confused in those videos? I don't know if you felt that way, but when I saw it, I felt like the way he was kind of moving his hands, he looked kind of like, I don't know. It just seemed kind of weird for me to watch
No,
it.
I know exactly what you're saying because I thought the same thing, and it's like he's confused about his technique or what exactly to do, and then McCoy's telling him like, "Yeah, go over," and he's just like sitting there like kind of like doing whatever he's doing. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like, dude, you've been playing football for a long time, and maybe in college he was just getting by on those genetics or something. Maybe he was just that much stronger and that much more faster and physical than all those guys in college. But in the pros, everybody else is fast and strong,
Yeah.
and that's when technique kicks in. So maybe that where that disconnection comes into play. So I'm not really sure, man, with Solomon Thomas. Maybe
That's
he
crazy.
maybe
It's
he
crazy.
just needs that help by Gerald McCoy, and Gerald McCoy could teach him.
Hopefully, man. I really do want him to get his career turned around.
Mhm.
Again, something you just mentioned, which is, everyone's strong and fast in the NFL. That doesn't work anymore. What works now is your technique. And that's
Yep.
the thing with Gerald McCoy. Like, he doesn't have to be the fastest and strongest guy because he still has technique. You don't lose technique, right?
Yep.
You can be 15 years out of the league. You still, if you're good technique, you're not going to lose that. You might not be as fast or as strong, but you don't lose technique, right? It's one of those things that, like, and I always talk to my brother about this, that, there's some people have great hand-eye coordination and some people don't, right? And that's true across life, right? Like every person, you'll see some people who are clumsy, some people who aren't. When it comes to DBs, you'll see some people who can turn their heads and find the ball when it's in the air, and there's others that panic and they can't locate the ball, right? With Trayvon Merrick, we're already seeing that he can locate the
Yep.
ball, right? And that's special, right? To be able to already do that at a young age, because he might not even be fully adjusted to the speed of the game, right? He's going to
Yep.
have to go out there and play, and he's going to have to cover Mike Evans with Tom Brady, a future Hall of Famer, throwing him the ball. He's going to have to get used to that, because covering when Marcus Mariota and Derek Carr are throwing the ball is not going to be the same. It's not the same zip. It's not the same. Brian Edwards runs different routes than AJ Green or whoever else it may be. So he's going to still have to make that adjustment. But I mean, I like what I see from him too, man. So
do I. And it was funny because I know people were going back and forth about when he broke up the pass. He was covering Willie Snead. I'm not sure if you've seen that specific one, but he broke up the pass, and people were arguing back and forth like, oh, that was Nathan Peterman throwing, that was Mariota. It was actually Derek Carr throwing the ball. I seen the video today, and it was the angle from behind Carr. So you see Carr throwing the ball, and then you see Merrick and Willie Snead running the route. You know what I mean? And if he's breaking up passes between Carr and Willie Snead, that's good, especially when you're running one-on-one drills.
Yep.
Because the one-on-one drills, it's it's not exactly like the game, It's
not. It
different
favors the
tonight.
receiver.
One-on-one drills, you can kind of get burnt easier than you would in the
Yeah.
game
No,
because you have
one-on-one
no
drills
help.
favors the wide receivers 100%. It's
Exactly.
way
So,
harder for defensive
and
backs.
the fact that he's able to make up ground, make a play on the ball on QB1, and a veteran seasoned wide receiver, I think that's pretty good. So I wanted Trayvon Merrick. I know you wanted Trayvon Merrick, and like you said earlier, they're getting guys that we wanted, and this was the first time they drafted a guy that I specifically wanted. So I'm glad he's looking good in camp, but he still has to prove it on the field week 1. He still has to go out there and show that he could produce. You know what I mean? Maybe he gets stage fright. You don't know, but I believe in Trayvon Merrick, man. I hope he balls out, dude.
I do
But
too.
Before we get off defensive tackle real quick, I want to ask you, Kendall Vickers. I know that's your guy, man. I want to say in the video I did earlier, there was a play. He was lined up at defensive end, and I saw that. I kind of thought it was interesting. They got him at defensive tackle. He was, I don't know what you consider that. I guess the 4th spot because those other guys are oars in front of him. But you think we could see him? You think he's just going to stay and make the roster based on the fact that we got McCoy, Phylon, Thomas, Hankins, Jefferson, all these guys?
Yeah. So before in camp, the guy that I talked to, he was telling me that Quentin Jefferson, Solomon Thomas, and Darius Phylon are the guys that are rotating at the 3 tech with the first stringers. He told me this. So that spot was not it was not set in stone. And I talked about this in one of my last videos last week, that those are the 3 guys fighting for that spot still. It'll likely be Quentin Jefferson at the 3 tech, but Solomon Thomas, Darius Phylon are still fighting for that spot. And the thing is now that we bring in Gerald McCoy, I think Kendall Vickers is on the out looking in. But I will say this, Kendall Vickers, I think this is his 3rd season. He's still practice squad eligible. So don't be surprised if he hits the practice squad. If you're in OR for the first spring spot, I'm gonna assume that means you're on the roster, right? I'm going to assume those 3 guys will be on the roster. Jonathan Hankins will be the 4th guy, and Gerald McCoy will be the 5th guy, which means I don't think you keep more than 5, right? And those are just defensive tackles. I think 5 defensive tackles make sense. At the same time, even then, I heard Darius Stills is supposed to be the practice squad guy, and what the hell's happening to him now, right? And again, I will say this: Kendall Vickers looked good at times last year. Maybe he hasn't developed. Maybe he hasn't gotten stronger, and maybe he just doesn't fit Gus Bradley's system. Maybe he's not good enough in the run. Either way, a lot of these questions are gonna get answered. Preseason week 1, 2, and 3. And right after that, right, we'll see what the final depth chart is. But I do think that the Raiders are getting deeper. And I'm really excited about that, man. The Raiders are looking up, right? We're not looking down. After 2017, I was telling myself, John Gruden's coming in. We need to rebuild our roster. And this is going to take a couple of seasons. We're not ready right now. Our guys were getting older. We didn't have as much depth. We relied a lot in 2016 on forcing turnovers to win. And that's not a recipe to win, right? Forcing turnovers is a thing that can go one way or the other because the ball can bounce one way or the other, right? One way you get the turnover, one way you don't. And we started that rebuild a couple years back. And I will say the one thing that kind of put us back was Antonio Brown. I think that set us back. And then even last season, I think injuries kind of set us back a little bit. But I think this is the year, man. I think we have
COVID.
Obviously, that's a good one. That set us back a little bit. But our team looks good, man. I said we have one of the best playmakers. I know they're unproven, and I'm not saying they're the best or they're the second best. I'd say they're top 12, right? Which puts you as one of the best, right? Top 12 gets you into the playoffs, right? I think we are. I think it'd be hard. For example, the Ravens playmakers are trash, right? Compared to ours. Right. I would say the only difference is the Ravens have had, a top 3 defense every year for the last 5 years. At the same time, we ignored the defensive tackle position and, I wanted Christian Barmore, but now we brought in Jefferson and Thomas and Phylon and McCoy. Those guys are all just brought in. Those guys weren't here last year. We're finally fixing the D-line. We're finally fixing the receivers group, right? I'm pumped up, man. I'm really pumped up.
Hey, I'm ready, man. I'm ready for this Saturday. I'm ready to see what we got in the store. Like I said, I've been waiting just to see what these depth chart guys are gonna do, and that's what the preseason is all about. When we draft these guys third, fourth, later, I want to see what they're all about. Like the Nate Hobbs, when you start getting into start talking about the slot corner, is he going to play slot corner? Is he going to play outside? We're going to see him at both spots. Is Amik Robinson going to get cut? Is he just that bad? You know what I mean? So
Yep.
a lot of this is going to determine for these younger guys, a lot of these depth guys, and that's what preseason is all about.
Yep.
So I'm pretty pumped up, man. I'm pumped up for that. That's going to get me ready for week one. You know what I mean? It's going to get me ready for week one because week one is good. This season is different. I don't know what makes it feel so different, but it just seems different. I think with Coach Bradley, I think with, we're 4 years deep into this build. Like,
Yep.
and John Gruden, as we know, he might not be going anywhere even if something happens this year. So I feel like it's just a big year. Like, dude, we have to see something out of John Gruden. We have to see something out of the team. And I think just the attitude of the whole team and the atmosphere has changed just a little bit just because now that things are opening back up, COVID's kind of going away. And it's weird to get a brand new stadium and nobody gets to be in it. So you don't really get that feel. So I
Yep.
think that does affect a whole lot. I think it
Yep.
affects a whole lot. So I'm just ready for this season, man. I'm pretty pumped up and I can't wait.
Yeah, man. I'm excited too. Everybody that was here, man, over almost 500 people were live with us. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Hit that thumbs up button, man, if you guys can. And make sure to go subscribe and follow Raid the Tape. He has a YouTube channel, great content. Make sure you guys go subscribe to him. I really appreciate you being here, Raid. Thank you very much, man.
Anytime, man. Whether it's playing the week out or whether it's playing 5 minutes ago, it don't even matter, man. I'm gonna pull up for you, dog. So I'll always like coming on talking Raiders football with you. Congratulations on everything. You know what I'm talking about and everything going on. So big ups to that, man. That's all I gotta say, dude. Appreciate you giving me a shout out. Rated tape. Until next time, y'all. We're gonna see what happens, man. This Saturday, we got a big game, we got a big season. So let's get it going.
Yep. And we'll be live on your channel after the game for sure. So
Yes,
if you guys
sir.
aren't subscribed, I'll be there right after the game on Saturday. So make sure you guys tune into that. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.